Start with a little ghost story. It's anniversary, 200 years since Charles Dickens was born this year, and he wrote The Christmas Carol, very famous story, and Scrooge was visited by three ghosts, right? And I think if you're a sales rep today and you're asleep, maybe at the wheel, maybe not, I think that you should be visited by three ghosts. And what's the ghost of Christmas past? Well, the ghost of Christmas past, certainly for big medtech and big pharma, is going to the doctor mainly, probably only, avoiding procurement, has been mentioned earlier, going maybe with something that might interest them by means of conference attendance or a clinical research study or something like this. Maybe even a unique life-saving product that they are so hungry to use. And it was pretty easy. I came, as was mentioned, I came in from small companies where it wasn't easy. I came to Smith & Nephew, it was the first big company I went to, and I thought, blimey, this is so easy. People actually want this stuff. And I got President's Club on my first year because I thought this is just too easy. Because I just went to see the clinical team and sold them this expensive stuff, which was fantastic. Previous to that, I'd been dealing with procurement and managers at best, dealing with pennies. And the ghost of Christmas present, to continue the story, is probably a rep that's winning in some places and losing in others, and probably not entirely sure why. Maybe they missed a stakeholder off of their list. Maybe a manager jumped in suddenly and said, we're not buying this anymore. I know we've done it for the last X years, but hey, it's too expensive. And the ghost of Christmas future, I think, is none of us actually having a job, because it will be like Amazon.com. And the medical device sector, and I know certain companies exploring this idea already, no reps, no technical, all online, help yourself, it's a bit cheaper. Okay, maybe there's some worries over safety, but hey, you can get online help. That's none of the ghosts I like. I've been in sales a long time, as I've mentioned, and I think I'd like a new alternative. So what's hidden in plain sight? Well, you can see this lady's got a nice heart-shaped head, probably not at the back. But all decisions are emotional. Imagination will always trump your willpower. And if you want to test this one out, let's say you've got to drive home a couple hours, spend that entire time thinking, right, these trousers are a little tight, I'm going to lose some weight. So you set off on your journey. The entire time driving home, you're thinking about cheesecake, you're thinking about what you're going to cook for dinner, you're thinking about food, starting to dribble. When you get in, what's going to win? Is it your willpower or your imagination? Guaranteed, 100% of the time, it's your imagination. You're halfway through the cheesecake going, I was supposed to be on a diet. If we want to change behavior, we have to change the movies we play in our minds. So emotional engagement. Paul Ekman did some work on faces. Who's familiar with Paul Ekman's faces? Good God, that's a shock. Paul Ekman showed that every emotion that people have is written on their faces. And even people that are lying will have micro-expressions, which I'll come on to talk about, and their face will give that emotion, albeit for a microsecond. Now, what's charm? Charm there's a great book called Charm, very small little book called Charm, and it's things that people say Bill Clinton had in spades. But charm is about building rapport, great listening skills, being interested in someone, and empathy. How do we build emotion? Through stories, through hypnosis, perhaps. I'll look at that briefly, and through passion and belief. The key to all of this is if you want your customer to feel an emotion, you have to feel it first, because emotions are contagious. If you go in saying, I'm really excited about this great new product, you're not going to sell any. Maybe you might if you're lucky. But you've got to put some belief into it yourself. And it helps, I think, if you actually believe in what you sell. If you think it's the best thing and you'd put it in your mum, dad, kid, grandparents, you're onto perhaps the best solid ground you can be on. If you don't really believe that, I'd suggest you change to a different place of work. So in passion storytelling, I've borrowed this from Dave Lacchini's Subliminal Persuasion book, which is a great read if you want one to read. But you create a powerful hook, something to bring people in. I put the word hypnosis in my description of this talk because I thought some people will probably come along just to see what this guy's going on about. Tell the story with great gusto. I'm obviously trying my best here to have some sort of gusto in my presentation. And you need to make it vivid, which is emotional. Now, a lot of what we sell in medical devices has got an emotional component. I've heard referenced earlier today incontinence. You can't think of a worse thing probably to live with, maybe. Maybe you can. But there's ways of talking about that make it vivid. And when we're talking to our non-clinical stakeholders, let's bring this to the table. Let's get them emotionally involved. All I hear from my colleagues is, hey, we need more economic data, more economic evidence, more economic models, more spreadsheets, more calculators, more this, more that, more the other. And I'm thinking, God, we're drowning in clinical data now. We're going to drown in economic data now because we've got some new stakeholders that happen to have non-clinical or even worse, economic buyer written against their name. People buy from people and people buy from people they like. That's the oldest selling line in the book, right? Why do we change that when we move to a different stakeholder and think, okay, now we're selling to a robot, we'll feed them economic data. Well, we need all that, of course, but that's for the morning after, right? That's the logical decision. We need to make it emotional using word pictures, metaphors, and similes. Hopefully, by the end of my talk, you won't be drowning in data, but you'll be drowning in analogies and metaphors.